I don't really know where to start with this episode. I've got a lot on my mind. It's been a while since I've posted an episode. And the reasons for that is kind of what I wanted to talk about today. And I know my thoughts are going to be all over the place per usual, but I'm curious to hear from others, about how similarly they feel to what I feel right now. I've run into a bit of an issue with my podcast already. Hasn't even really done anything yet. But it's not just my podcast, but it's just kind of the whole. I feel like many people in our generation are kind of set up to fail. And that's not, I shouldn't say that because that would imply that I think that you can't succeed, which I don't believe that, but this is just my current thoughts. I started a podcast because I have always struggled to have the 9-to-5 job, you know. I mentioned this in my previous episodes. I probably went into detail in my first episode on that. But that's the reason that I didn't go to high school, and I've had jobs and I just couldn't do them because they're ultimately unfulfilling. Even things like my streaming, I felt like I had a little bit of success there, and I just quit doing that because it wasn't fulfilling. Ultimately, on paper, it all goes well, but it's the fulfillment. And I think that some people, find fulfillment in their work, and they do the 9-to-5 jobs, and some of them are big time, sometime maybe you have a doctor that feels very fulfilled by his work. But for the most part, these 9-to-5 jobs that everybody's doing, it seems less about fulfillment and more about just making money, so that then you can take that money and then do the things that make you feel fulfilled. Maybe. Because I don't even know if you have time for it, really. And it's just such a small portion of somebody's life compared to how much they're doing a job that they really don't care about, or really, doesn't make them feel fulfilled. It's like you're working 8 hours a day, and we all say 8 hours, but it's more like, realistically, it's more like 9 to 10 even. Because you got, some people are just commuting for an hour to and fro their job. And you got to get ready for your job, and that's like over half your day. And if it's over half your day, then it's over half your life. You're doing something that you probably just don't really care about. And I've seen things online, I don't feel like I'm alone feeling that way. And so, take this this podcast, for example, I built this studio not because like not because I'm admiring how great this studio is. I mean, I built it just to get this thing, just to do the podcast. That's what was important to me. And I felt very passionate about the podcast because it was something that I could set my own rules for. I could do my own thing, run my own show. I make the rules. See, that's the other thing about all these jobs is that you're answering to the man. You're playing by somebody else's rules in all of these professions and career. You know, even a doctor, you go to college for years, maybe even over a decade, and you get a job and you're still usually working under somebody. Somebody's still telling you what to do or how to do it. And that's what I've struggled with, man. I feel like I've struggled with that more than most. You know, nobody likes that. At least not most people, I would guess, but I can't do it. Like, I don't know. I don't know why I am that way. I've heard that you hear people say work is work. Like, you're never going to do something. You're never going to find a career that doesn't feel like work, at least to some degree. Even if you're doing what you love, like, it's still going to become work. It's going to feel like work to a degree. Some far worse than others. And there's probably some truth to that. But for the most part, like, the amount of work to fulfillment, I just feel like there should be a lot more fulfillment in people's work than there currently is, just in general. And I could be wrong about that. But for me, that was definitely the case in every job that I've had. And that's why I keep trying to do things like this. Because I'm like, I'm not finding fulfillment in the jobs, and I think it's because I need to just do what I'm passionate about. And so here I am. And, I was super excited about all this. I obviously invested so much into this. And I had an idea of what I wanted to do with this. And I felt good about it. And I was like, dude, I want to, I've got stuff to say. But the thing that I wanted to do the most was to make peace. Do my part in making peace, which is so difficult today. And see, that's what the prophets are calling for. I mean, look around you. We're in horrible commotion right now. Everybody's arguing. Everybody is at each other's throats. And go figure, like, obviously, it's no surprise that the prophets are like, we need to be peacemakers. We need to find peace here and build bridges. And I've mentioned that. I know I've mentioned that before. But here's where the problem comes in. Is I'm feeling like it almost can't be done. It's almost like you have to choose between seeking for peace and making a living in this industry. And I'm not just talking about podcasting, but just like influencing in general, or even just running a business. Okay, I've had this conversation with a lot of my friends recently. Social media is like a necessity today. That's crazy, dude. Like, think about that for 2 seconds. This is the only time in human history where social media is a necessity for your business. If this is not the first time in human history where human beings like myself, the rising generation, dream and have these ideas of what they want to do. Even if it's just like, building your own homestead and farming your own food and raising a family like that, like whatever it is. This is the first time in history where social media, the internet, it went from being like a way that you could advertise to the only way you can advertise. I shouldn't say the only way that you can, but what I tell everybody is anybody that has succeeded and is, any successful entrepreneurs, if you went to them and you pitched this idea, you're like, hey, I want to do this podcast, or I've invented something, I've manufactured something that I want to sell. They would just call you, they would just think that you're the dumbest idiot on the planet Earth if you suggested but I'm not going to go on social media. I'm not going to advertise on social media. It's too crazy. I don't like social media, so I'm going to stay off of it. They'd be like, well, good luck, dude. It's not going to work. Hey, I'm Kevin Siraj. I have this idea. I want to do the MiniMoron show. And here's what I want it to be. I want to hear people out. I want to talk to people, and I want to find peace. I want to, all of the shows that I've seen is more about people arguing. And maybe they're not even arguing on the show, but maybe it's two people on the same side that are just arguing to the other side that isn't there, It's all about sides. And there's a reason for that. I made a post a little bit ago based on the scripture from the Book of Mormon about Zeezrom, this lawyer that, Mormon points out that Zeezrom riles up this crowd that Alma and Amulek are talking to. They're preaching. Alma and Amulek are preaching the gospel, and Zeezrom is like, I need to rile up this crowd. And it had very little to do with Zeezrom disagreeing with what they had to say, and much more to do with the fact that he just needed people angry. He needed to stir up this crowd because that means more work for him. And I feel like that is exactly what's going on today. And I just watched this documentary the other day that kind of confirmed this theory. Because think about social media. Think about what's on social media. Think about what is getting the clicks. Think about what people are clicking on. Think about what you're interacting with. Think about what you're clicking on. Think about what you're commenting on. If you come across content that you just agree with and that and isn't controversial at all and is much more about finding a middle, I don't even know if a middle ground is the right term, but just people that seek to make peace. People that are like, dude, let's shoot for the unicorns and rainbows instead of war. Nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about the guy that is trying to see the other side of their perspective. Nobody cares about the guy that's trying to hear other people out. What people are clicking on and what people are interacting with is the argument. Is I make if I want to succeed in this industry, if I want to have a successful podcast, then I have to say something that is controversial. I have to pick a side and then just vehemently defend that side. I have to subscribe to something that already exists. And maybe I can put my own little twist on it, but it has to be controversial so that other people will feel inclined to argue with me and put me in my place. That's already, I don't even have a following. I don't even have a following like at all. And the small percentage of comments and interactions that I have with my content, it's most of the small amount of interaction that I have is arguments, is people responding and trying to correct me. And sure, I appreciate a good comment of people that are just like peacefully expressing their views. But even that's rare. I say expressing their views like when they disagree with me. I enjoy those. But even that's rare, because that's not what gets clicks. That's not what people feel when they, you have to take up some of your time to interact with things and watch things and comment on things. And you don't really do that unless it's either A, somebody you disagree with and you're really annoyed by it and you feel this undying urge to correct them, or it's somebody that you agree with that is putting somebody else in their place and you want to just rally behind that person. But it's all about this war. It's all about this argument. And that's what they want, dude. That's what they want. We have heard so much, dude. I'll be the first to tell you that the U.S. government is not the one. Donald Trump is not the top dog. I don't know how deep the deep state goes. I don't know how deep the cabal goes. I very much believe that there is the cabal, this organization that is running the whole world. I don't know how deep it goes. I don't know who the individuals are. I have my theories. But why do we not have more people that understand that, like, this is literally what they want? We think that we're gaining ground when the Epstein files are released, or when our president gets elected and our guy wins the election and he's going to do it right this time, and it's not. Like they just want you angry. They created two sides. And if they could create more sides than that, if they can divide people up even more than that and create more than just two mobs, two sides to everything, great. Like, we just need people angry. Why? Because that's what makes the world go round. Tell me that that's wrong. Tell me that that's wrong. It's anger. The world is literally being run by Satan. The other thing is, what did I tell my friend just barely? It's either rage bait or thirst traps. That's what people interact with the most. And I know people will come on here and think like, you can make wholesome content, and people do click on and interact with like certain wholesome content, but it's usually just like cute little like stuff that really actually doesn't hold a ton of value, like stuff that I can't post and feel like I fulfilled and contributed to society with. Like, everybody's going to post, everybody's going to interact with like, with the baby monkey that that my wife just showed me, that got rejected by his mom, and now he carries around his little plushie everywhere. Like, everybody loves that dude, and that's going to go viral. But that I can't do that. I can't make a podcast on that. Or maybe I can. I don't know how. But there's so many people that are in my position, and maybe they don't even, maybe they don't feel the need to start an entire podcast, but I feel like there's so many people in my generation, my age, or younger, older, give or take, and we all feel this, we've got something to say. And so we go on social media and we comment and we make posts, and we're trying to win. We're trying to convince the other side. We're always trying to convince other people. And I don't even know. I don't know where I am necessarily even going with it, but it just doesn't feel like I can. It feels like I can't do with this podcast what it is that I want to do. Maybe if I say it differently, like I sit and think to myself, how do I got to get a following. Like if I'm going to do this, I have to get people that I have to put out content that people want to engage with and want to watch. So then I obviously think to myself, then what do people want to watch? What do people interact with? And that's the bottom line, dude, is the large majority of that is thirst traps and rage bait. And the big thing is the thing that I'm passionate about, the things that I'm clicking on, and the things that are in my algorithm is like all the big conspiracy theories and stuff. And I love to talk about those, but you can't do that. Like people, it gets people angry, or you just get like labeled as this crazy person, or like, it just seems like we're so limited in what we can actually do. We say that we're free, but are we really free? I just don't feel like I can like sit down in front of a microphone and actually talk about what I want to talk about. I can't sit here and talk about what I want to talk about because I am a slave to the system. Dude, I might even see, that's the other thing is I might make content that people actually do want to watch. And there's people out there, I remember watching a YouTube video years ago that was like, dude, your audience is out there. There's so many freaking people on YouTube. Your audience is out there. It's just a matter of finding them. Doing the work, putting in the work until you find that audience and build them up. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I believe that there's that many people on YouTube, But at the same time, there's like a whole science, there's a whole profession behind playing into the YouTube algorithm or the Facebook algorithm or the Instagram algorithm. It's like, what content can I post on here? How is this content going to get pushed forward? And there's a lot of things, what can you do to your thumbnails? What can you do to your captions, or, what can you do to your cuts or the quality of your video, or like, what, I don't know what it is, but I think at the end of the day, it's the system is pushing the rage bait and the thirst traps. And that was the thing that was kind of confirmed in this documentary that I watched, is they designed it that way. If I'm Mark Zuckerberg and I'm creating the Facebook algorithm, I have power over what gets pushed to other people's devices. I'm going to push the stuff that enrages people, because I know I have already seen, it's been proven that that is what people click on. That's what people interact with. That is what ultimately gets me business. So if the MoxieMoron show comes along and they're not posting things that would make people upset, or just like, or the opposite, just rally around and get people fired up against another side, then we're not going to push it. Comedy, I guess, is another thing. Like you could just be funny. But even comedy's run by the devil. Unless you dip your toe in the you're either arguing with people or like bullying people, like insulting people, or you have to be at least like to a degree, like your morals have to come down a little bit, even if you take the comedy route. You're like, you know what? I'm just going to create a channel where we just do funny stuff and make people laugh. And I still don't even think those really pop off unless it's thirst trap or your morals are reduced. I just don't see, I don't know. Even the content creator, a lot of the content creators that are members of the church, you know, their content is just like, it's like battling the anti-Mormons. Here's my rebuttal to this anti-literature, or this channel, this person that posts anti stuff, or they said this thing and we got to prove them wrong, or we got to correct them. Or it's just like they're just, or it's just very clickbaity. Like if it's not that, then it's just like very, very clickbait. Like these channels are like turning the second coming of Jesus Christ into clickbait. And I don't want to say that that's like wrong. I don't think it is wrong, but it's weird. Something about it seems like not sacred. And so I can't do that. It just makes me wonder, like, what do I even do then, dude? Is it that complex? Am I actually just driving myself crazy? Or is what I'm saying actually sort of true? I really don't even, I don't know. Like that's what I think is like, well, maybe it's just a me problem. Maybe this is just a me problem. And that's why I go around and I ask these other people, like, do you feel this way? And they're like, yeah, dude, I feel the same way. Like we're just kind of lost. We don't really know what to do because every job sucks. You can give in and be like, I don't want to offend people by saying that's how it feels to me personally. Is like if I could drop all of it, I could drop all of this and go out and get a job tomorrow. That would make me a living, and I would hate it. But it would give me the opportunity to make a living and live my life. But I don't feel like that's what life is about, dude. I could go get a construction job tomorrow, but then when I'm dead, I don't want to have looked back on my life and be like, yeah, dude, I built houses. What did Kevin Siraj do with his life? He built houses. And that's not to say that that's not a noble cause for people. I think that there are people that are astronomically better at that stuff than I am. And they should have a sense of pride in that. And they should build houses because that's their God-given talent. It's not mine, dude. It's not mine. God gave, I feel like I am somewhat aware, at least, of the talents that God gave me. And there just doesn't seem to be a way to really turn them into a living without dipping my toe in the devil's water. So what I just don't know what to do. I don't know who to bring on. And if I do have somebody, I'm like, dude, you know what would make that person would make a good guest. What do we freaking talk about? We got to argue. We got to find something to argue about. We got to find something, and maybe we don't argue, but we take a right-wing thing and get all the left people mad at us. Or we take a left-wing thing and we get all the right-wing people mad at us. And we'll have ourselves a successful episode. Or we'll take the independent route and just have people think that we're totally freaking insane. See, and then the problem is that then the argument comes up like, well, Kev, Jesus got crucified. He was perfect. And people were still plenty mad at him. So it's like, dude, people are just going to be mad at you no matter what you do. And so then I have to think like, okay, so what can I say and do? Because there are things that you can say and do that make people mad at you that you're actually not supposed to say and do, that I'd need to repent for. But there are clearly things that you can say and do that will make people mad at you that you don't have to repent for. But what those things are, dude, I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of lost on that. And maybe I'm not even super lost on that, but I don't see how you can turn that into a living. I don't see how you can make that a living when the only way, again, I'll reemphasize that the only way that you can make a living like this is through social media, which is run by people that don't share my morals. It's so I have to play their game to some degree. Anyway, I don't even know how long I've been talking. It doesn't feel like it's been super long, but I would be very curious to hear, what would you do if you were me? You got yourself a podcast. See, that's what I want to do, man. Like I want to give people a platform because I just don't feel like I'm the only one with stuff I want to say. But I feel like there are so many people I know that feel like they can't say what they want to say. You have to feel out the situation, and like in this taboo environment, you have to like find out where people lie politically or religiously. And then when you get comfortable with I'm watching memes about it, dude. Like, and then you find out that they're, because you can't just walk up and ask somebody, hey, did you vote for Donald Trump? Hey, are you right-winged? Are you left-wing? Like, you can't really do that because it's so tense. So you kind of have to like just kind of feel it out and just kind of like naturally get to know them until you kind of figure out where they lie politically or religiously. And then if they line up with you, then you're like, oh, dude, the floodgates are open. Now we've got freedom of speech. Now we can say whatever we want to each other because we know that we're chill. But what kind of a world is that, man? What kind of that's so disappointing. And it's because of anger. It's because people get offended, man. It's because we get offended too easily. We get angry too easily. And we don't give people the benefit of the doubt. We don't even try to see things. And maybe some people like say that they try to see things from other people's perspectives. Dude, they don't. They try it's so minimal. Or if they are trying, it's a poor effort, man. But, that's the world we live in right now. That's the world that I live in. That's how I feel. We can't actually be who we want to be. We can't actually say what we want to say. Truly. And is that because who we are and what we want to be is actually wrong? Or is it because the world that we're living in, the rules that we're playing by are wrong? And it could be both. But having to navigate like which is which, point by point, case by case, sentence by sentence, it's overwhelming to me. It's discouraging to me. But there's still, in conclusion, there's still just this tiny spark, a little tiny glimmer of hope. That's why I'm sitting here doing this episode. It's taken me a long time to do it, and I don't even, I never know how these things turn out, are going to turn out, I should say. But there's a teensy tiny piece of me that still has faith in the idea that seeking to make peace you can somehow do it. You can somehow turn it into a living even today. And that's why I'm still here. So give me your pointers. Give me your thoughts. Anybody else feel that way? Anybody else feel trapped? Let me know. And let me know who I need to get on here. Let me know who needs to hop on the podcast and do an episode. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.